The world just lost one of the greatest comedic minds we've ever had. Catherine O'Hara passed away on January 30th, 2026, at 71, and if you're feeling that loss right now, you're not alone. For 50 years, this woman made us laugh in ways we didn't even know we needed. But here's the thing most people don't know about her journey. It almost never happened. Back in 1974, she was just a waitress at Second City Theatre in Toronto, watching legends like Dan Aykroyd and Gilda Radner perform every night. When she finally got the courage to audition, the feedback was brutal. Joe Flaherty told her straight up, "Keep up the good work. Your day job, waitressing." But she didn't listen. She auditioned again, and this time she got in. Her secret? She told The New Yorker that whenever she got scared on stage, she'd just play insane because then nothing that came out of her mouth had to make sense. That fearlessness became her signature. Born in Toronto in 1954, Catherine was the second youngest of 7 children. Her father worked for the Canadian Pacific Railway, her mother was a real estate agent, and her first acting gig was playing the Virgin Mary in a nativity play. Nothing about her upbringing screamed future comedy legend, but there was something in her that needed to perform, needed to make people laugh. By 1976, she was on SCTV alongside Eugene Levy, Martin Short, Andrea Martin, and John Candy, creating characters that would become legendary. Lola Heatherton, Dusty Town, impressions of Meryl Streep and Brooke Shields that were so good they became the standard. She won an Emmy for writing in 1982, but the show had a problem. Their producer would get a deal with the network, they'd have a show for a season or two, then that deal would disappear. There'd be a break, then they'd do the show again. During one of those breaks in 1981, Saturday Night Live came calling. Of course she said yes, who wouldn't? But before she could appear in a single episode, SCTV got picked up again, and she went back. Her best friend from high school, Robin Duke, took her SNL slot instead. It all worked out the way it was supposed to, she said years later. And looking at her career, it's hard to argue. When SCTV ended in 1984, she actually felt relieved. She told People magazine it had become less than fulfilling by the end. She'd lost enthusiasm. She wanted to learn more about acting. She wanted a personal life. She wanted to get scared again. But leaving the show created a new problem. Hollywood started whispering that she didn't want to work, that she was difficult, that she turned down everything. The truth was simpler and more honest. She read scripts and got a gut feeling about whether she wanted to be part of them. Do I want my parents to see this? She'd ask herself. I'd rather stay home than do something I know is bad and have to defend it later. That kind of integrity is rare in any industry, but especially in entertainment, where people will do anything for their next job. Her film debut was 1980's Double Negative, which also featured Eugene Levy and other SCTV co-stars like Joe Flaherty and John Candy. Then came Martin Scorsese's After Hours in 1985 and Heartburn in 1986. But 1988 changed everything. Beetlejuice gave her the role of Delia Deetz, the pretentious stepmother of Winona Ryder's Lydia, and on that set she met production designer Bo Welch. They'd marry 4 years later in 1992, and she'd tell people decades later that their secret was communicating through jokes instead of arguments. "We'll make fun of each other instead of yelling at each other," she said. "Sarcasm helps." They had 2 sons together, Matthew and Luke, and built a life that balanced Hollywood and normalcy in a way few families manage. Then came Home Alone in 1990, and that iconic scream, "Kevin!" that made her a household name around the world. She played the harried mom of Macaulay Culkin's Kevin, and the movie became one of the most beloved family films of all time. "It's a perfect movie, isn't it?" she reflected in 2024. "I need to care about the whole thing. I don't care to do a great role in a bad project. You want to be part of something good, and that's how you go." She reprised her role for Home Alone 2, Lost in New York in 1992, and for years afterward, people would stop her on the street and ask her to yell "Kevin" in their faces. She did it with grace every single time. The 90s brought more iconic roles. She voiced Sally in The Nightmare Before Christmas in 1993, appeared in Wyatt Earp in 1994, and then in 1996, something magical happened. She appeared in her first Christopher Guest mockumentary, Waiting for Guffman. Guest's improvisational style was perfect for someone who'd cut her teeth at Second City, and she'd go on to appear in Best in Show in 2000 and A Mighty Wind in 2003, where she and Eugene Levy sang together on screen. People magazine called her the gifted queen of the bittersweet in a review of 2006's For Your Consideration, another Guest collaboration. These movies didn't make blockbuster money, but they became cult classics, the kind of films people quote endlessly and watch over and over. In Best in Show, she played Cookie Fleck, a woman with a colorful past who could harmonize in impossible keys. In A Mighty Wind, she and Levy played former folk singers reuniting after years apart, and their performance of A Kiss at the End of the Rainbow earned them a Grammy nomination. Through all of this, her partnership with Eugene Levy remained the constant. They'd met at Second City in the 70s and had been working together ever since. I would love to think we continue to challenge each other, like a good married couple would do, she told People. But it wasn't until 2015 that they'd create their most iconic collaboration. When Eugene called her about a new show his son Dan was creating called Schitt's Creek, she almost said no. "I'm kind of busy." Then she admitted doing nothing. Dan Levy, who'd created the show with his father and was nervous about whether they could pull it off, promised they'd go 1 year at a time, no long-term commitment required. That flexibility convinced her, and it turned out to be the best decision of her career. Moira Rose, the fallen socialite with over-the-top wigs and an unplaceable accent and vocabulary that seemed pulled from some alternate dimension, became the role that introduced Catherine O'Hara to an entire new generation. And those wigs? That was all Catherine. She begged for them. "I'd like to wear a wig depending on my mood," she told the team. And though it scared everyone at first, how much work are you asking the hair department to do? How much planning is involved? She insisted it wasn't about planning. It's according to how she feels that day. Moira ended up with a massive collection of wigs, each one reflecting a different emotional state, and it became one of the character's most memorable quirks. The show started small. In Canada, it aired on CBC, and in the US on the Pop Network, a channel most people had never heard of. But when Netflix picked it up for streaming, suddenly the world discovered what Canada had known all along. Younger audiences who'd never seen SCTV or the Christopher Guest films fell in love with Moira Rose. "I used to mostly get people named Kevin who'd come up to me and ask me to yell Kevin in their faces," Catherine told People in 2020. "Now it's mostly about Moira and Schitt's Creek. I've never gotten this kind of attention in my life. It's crazy." Moira was a constant scene stealer with her over-the-top outfits, her mispronunciations of common words, and her deeply theatrical approach to everyday life. Catherine told WWD that she suggested the wigs early, and when everyone worried about the logistics, she promised it would be simple, whatever Moira felt like that day. The character's accent was intentionally impossible to place, a mix of transatlantic affectation and pure invention, and her vocabulary, filled with arcane words that most people needed subtitles to understand, became legendary. Fans started creating compilations of Moira's best mispronunciations and malapropisms. In 2020, Schitt's Creek swept all 7 comedy categories at the Emmy Awards, a historic achievement. When Catherine won for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series, her acceptance speech hit different than most. "I will forever be grateful to Eugene and Daniel Levy for the opportunity to play a woman of a certain age, my age, who gets to be fully herself." That phrase, "fully be herself," captured something essential about both Moira and Catherine. In an industry that often has no idea what to do with women over 50, here was a show that put a 70-year-old woman at its center and let her be ridiculous, vain, loving, complex, and completely herself. Catherine also won a Golden Globe and a SAG Award for the series, along with 6 Canadian Screen Awards. She'd had a remarkable career before Schitt's Creek, but this was different. This was recognition on a scale she'd never experienced, and it came at a time when many actors her age were told there were no roles left for them. Other TV roles over the years included guest spots on 6 Feet Under, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and 30 Rock. She received an Emmy nomination for her performance in the 2010 TV film Temple Grandin. She voiced characters in animated films like Frankenweenie, The Addams Family, and Elemental. And in 2024, she appeared in the action film Argylle, Season 2 of The Last of Us, and returned to the role of Delia Deetz in Beetlejuice, 36 years after the original. She was still working, still choosing projects she cared about, still refusing to do anything just for a paycheck. The tributes that poured in after her passing on January 30th tell you everything you need to know about who she really was. Macaulay Culkin, who she'd played opposite in Home Alone when he was just a kid, wrote on Instagram, "Mama, I thought we had time. I wanted more. I wanted to sit in a chair next to you. I heard you, but I had so much more to say. I love you. I'll see you later." Eugene Levy, her creative